You know, we all laugh, right? I mean, it's just something we do. But have you ever, like, really thought about what it would be like if all of a sudden we couldn't laugh anymore? If humor just disappeared?
Kind of a mind-blowing concept, isn't it?
Totally. And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Oh, this is going to be good.
It's a story about a world where this virus, they call it punchline, wipes out humor. And get this. It turns society super efficient, but also, like, emotionally empty.
So, like, everyone's getting stuff done, but nobody's having any fun.
Exactly. And we see this whole thing unfold through the eyes of Jimmy O'Connor. He's this struggling stand-up comedian who, for some reason, is immune to the virus. And the story kicks off in a place we all know and love, a dimly lit comedy club called the Broken Mic.
I can practically smell the stale beer and desperation.
Right. So picture this. Jimmy's up on stage cracking jokes. And what's really interesting is how his jokes land so differently with different people.
Yeah, like how does the virus actually change people's reactions to humor?
Well, his friends, they still get it. They laugh. But the rest of the audience, the people who've already been affected by the virus, it's like they're just not on the same wavelength anymore. They're way more interested in checking their productivity stats on their phones than in, actually enjoying the show.
It's like they've lost that shared understanding of what's funny.
There's this one scene where Jimmy's doing this bit about pigeons using dating apps.
Like pigeons? Like the birds?
Yeah, pigeons. He calls it Cupid, which I thought was pretty clever.
I'll admit, that's a good one.
Right. But instead of laughing, these college kids in the audience are, like, totally engrossed in their phones, comparing their, like, step counts or something. It's like the whole concept of shared amusement is just gone.
That's wild. So it's not just about not getting the joke. It's like they don't even see the point of humor anymore.
It's like they've evolved past it. And it's not just the audience either. Even Jimmy's closest friends are starting to change. Like, there's this part where he gets home and finds his roommate alphabetizing spices.
Alphabetizing spices, that seems a bit extreme.
Right. And not even alphabetically, but by, like, molecular density. I mean, come on.
So the virus is like turning everyone into these hyper-organized robots.
It's like it's amped up that part of us that craves order and efficiency to the point where it's kind of creepy.
It makes you wonder, like, how much of ourselves do we sacrifice in the name of productivity?
And it goes way beyond personal quirks, too. Even the hot dog vendor, who used to be known for his, like, cheesy puns, is now selling these things called optimally portioned protein cylinders. Even the language has become all serious and scientific.
So humor is being squeezed out of every corner of life.
The world is losing its color, its vibrancy. It's all just becoming very literal.
I can see how that would be super frustrating for Jimmy, especially as a comedian.
Oh, totally. And it actually starts affecting his job, too. He works in advertising, and whenever he tries to inject a little humor into his taglines or presentations, he's met with blank stares or, even worse, criticism.
It's like being funny is now a liability.
Yeah, and this whole thing happens so fast. Comedy clubs are getting shut down and turned into these productivity enhancement centers. Everyone's obsessed with optimization. It's actually pretty scary, but it's also kind of funny in this, like, absurd way.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Like, it's tragic, but there's this underlying absurdity to the whole situation.
Exactly. So we've got this world that's quickly transforming into this humorless machine. And right when things are starting to feel pretty bleak, we're introduced to this character named Jerry.
Jerry, who's he?
He's the elderly janitor at the comedy club. And he becomes, like, Jimmy's unlikely mentor.
A janitor. Interesting.
I know, right? But Jerry is special. He's one of the few people who are immune to the virus. He calls them humor antibodies. People who have this, like, deep connection to comedy and who've managed to resist the effects of the virus.
Humor antibodies. I like that. So it's like humor can actually protect you from this virus.
That's what Jerry seems to think. And it makes you wonder, like, could a good dose of laughter actually make you more resilient in real life, too?
Now that's a question I'd love to explore further.
Me too. But unfortunately, Jerry doesn't stick around for long.
Oh, no. What happens to him?
Well, it's kind of ironic, actually. He has a heart attack right in the middle of the comedy club. And his last words are like, "Damn efficiency optimization. Body's trying to streamline my heartbeat."
Wow. Even in death, he's still making jokes.
He was a true comedian to the end, and right before he goes, he gives Jimmy this clue. He tells him about a scientist named Dr. Chen who's studying the punchline virus. Jerry thinks she might hold the key to a cure.
So Jimmy's got a new mission now. He's got to find this Dr. Chen and figure out how to bring laughter back to the world.
Exactly. But as he starts digging deeper, he begins to suspect that Dr. Chen might not be the humorless scientist she appears to be.
Oh, what makes him think that?
Well, there are these little hints, like she wears these bright purple sneakers under her lab coat, and he finds a hidden knock-knock joke on a sticky note in her office.
Those are some interesting clues.
It's like she's trying to suppress a part of herself, you know? But why? And can Jimmy break through her defenses and reawaken that sense of humor? We'll have to wait for part 2 to find out.
Turns out Dr. Chen's whole, I don't know, like, serious vibe isn't just because of, the whole no laughter thing going on in the world.
So there's more to it.
Oh, yeah, way more. It actually goes back to, like, a really personal tragedy. Her father, believe it or not, died laughing, and that, like, totally shaped how she sees the world.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty intense. It makes you think about how our own experiences, like even the really tough ones, can really influence how we feel about things, even something as basic as humor. So is that why she's so dedicated to, like, wiping out humor, because she connects it with pain?
Exactly. She sees humor as this, like, glitch in our evolution. Like it's this flaw that holds us back and makes us act all irrational. Which, is actually kind of a thought-provoking idea, right? It makes you question whether laughter is really all that great after all.
Yeah. It's almost like she's trying to, I don't know, like erase a part of herself, the part that brings back all those painful memories. But Jimmy, being a comedian and all, he sees things differently. He doesn't buy into that whole humor is a flaw thing.
So how does he try to get through to her?
He basically tries to, like, wear down her defenses. He starts leaving jokes around the lab, sneaking puns into reports, just like little things to try and reawaken that sense of humor she's buried so deep.
He's like a one-man comedy crusade.
Totally. It's like he's conducting his own experiment to see if laughter can, I don't know, like, penetrate even the toughest exterior. And it's not just Dr. Chen he's trying to reach. He also meets Tom, her research assistant. And guess what? Tom used to be a comedy podcast producer.
No way. So he's got that, like, comedic background, but he's now working in this super serious lab.
Yeah, and you can totally see this internal struggle in him. He admits to Jimmy that he still gets these urges to laugh, like pangs of nostalgia for the days when humor wasn't, public enemy number one.
It's like that part of him, the part that loves comedy. It's still in there, just waiting to be rekindled.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder how many other people are out there, like, secretly yearning for a good laugh. But things really take a turn when Jimmy discovers that Dr. Chen has been secretly watching these recordings of him trying to make people laugh, the recordings from his experiment.
Hold on, she's spying on him.
Well, not exactly spying. It's more like she's fascinated by his attempts to break through the virus's effects. And there's this one clip where she actually laughs out loud.
She does. Dr. Chen laughs.
It's just this quick little burst, and she hides it right away, but it's like, a crack in her armor, like a glimmer of hope.
So maybe there is a way to reach her after all.
Maybe. But just when Jimmy starts feeling hopeful, he stumbles upon something way more sinister. It turns out this whole punchline virus wasn't some random accident. It was engineered. On purpose?
Engineered. By who?
Yeah, by Megacorp, that shady corporation we talked about earlier, the ones who are, like, obsessed with control and efficiency. They created the virus to, well, basically control the workforce.
Oh, that takes things to a whole new level. It's not just about the absence of humor now. It's about, like, corporate manipulation and, like, the exploitation of human nature.
And it gets even worse. Jimmy discovers that his own father, a high-up executive at Megacorp, was actually involved in releasing the virus. Talk about a family betrayal.
Oof, that's rough. I mean, what do you even do with that information?
I don't know. But it puts Jimmy in this really tough spot. He's not just fighting for the return of laughter now, he's fighting against this huge corporation and dealing with the fact that his own dad is, like, part of this global conspiracy.
So what does he do? I mean, how do you fight a corporation that's basically weaponized boredom?
Well, Jimmy's a comedian, right? So he's always looking for the angle, the unexpected approach. And he starts to notice this pattern in Dr. Chen's reactions. Whenever she's exposed to, like, genuinely funny stuff, not just, corny jokes, the virus's hold on her weakens for exactly 3.7 minutes.
Wait, so real laughter is like an antivirus?
It seems that way, like a temporary one at least.
That's incredible. But what can he do with that?
Well, Jimmy being Jimmy, he comes up with this crazy plan. He's going to hijack Megacorp's Global Summit broadcast, the one where they're planning to release a permanent version of the virus. And he's going to replace it with a wave of pure, unadulterated humor.
He's going to fight a virus with comedy.
It's more like he's going to use humor to, like, disrupt their message of control and efficiency. He wants to remind people what it feels like to laugh, to connect, to embrace the absurdity of life.
So he's leading a counter-comedy offensive.
You could say that. And he manages to get Tom, the podcast producer, and a few other folks from the lab on board, people who are, like, secretly yearning for a good laugh.
It's like the Rebel Alliance of comedy. But how do they actually pull this off? I mean, breaking into a global summit broadcast can't be easy.
Well, they create this algorithm called LAUGH, which stands for Logical Algorithm Utilizing Genuine Humor. It's designed to, like, identify and amplify real, authentic laughter.
Clever.
And get this, they use comedy club seating charts to map out their signal distribution pattern.
Comedy club seating charts. Seriously.
It's brilliant, right? They're using the literal blueprint of laughter to spread their message. Okay, so to recap, they've got this crazy plan to, like, sneak into the global summit and broadcast real, genuine laughter to combat the permanent version of the punchline virus. It's a huge risk, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the story, it really builds the suspense. You see Jimmy dodging security guards, using, like, slapstick moves that are funny but also super risky. He's putting everything on the line to bring back laughter.
It's like he's this modern-day Buster Keaton using physical comedy to, like, fight the system. So he finally makes it on stage. What happens next?
He doesn't, like, immediately launch into a stand-up routine or anything. Instead, he just starts talking to the audience, and by extension, the whole world, in this really honest, down-to-earth way. He talks about how absurd corporate culture has become, how everyone's always expected to be on, like, wearing these masks to hide their real selves.
So he's kind of holding up a mirror to society, showing them how their pursuit of efficiency has, like, dehumanized them in a way.
Exactly.
Ah.
And he does it with this perfect blend of humor and vulnerability. He points out that the virus didn't really steal their laughter. They chose to give it up because they were so afraid of feeling too much, of being seen as weak or inefficient.
It's a powerful message. He's basically saying, hey, we're all human, we all have these messy emotions, and it's okay to laugh about them, to connect with each other through them.
And then there's this really touching moment where he addresses his father directly. The guy who was responsible for releasing the virus. He reminds him of all these memories they shared, like laughing at his mom's terrible jokes, all those little moments of joy.
You can just feel the tension in that room, right? This clash between cold, hard logic and raw human emotion.
And that's when it happens. As Charles O'Connor, Mr. Efficiency himself, is struggling to, like, hold back a laugh, Tom kicks in the next phase of the plan. He starts broadcasting all the security footage of people from, like, all over the world. Executives dancing in elevators, scientists making silly faces, even Dr. Chen laughing uncontrollably.
So they're taking all those sullen moments of joy, all that suppressed laughter, and sharing it with everyone.
Exactly. And it's amazing. People start giggling, then chuckling, and pretty soon the whole auditorium is erupting in laughter. It's this contagious wave of joy that spreads from screen to screen, city to city, across the entire world.
So they did it. They actually used laughter to, like, cure the world.
Well, sort of. But the really cool thing is the story doesn't just end there. It goes on to imagine a future where humor and efficiency can, like, coexist, where joy and productivity aren't seen as opposites.
That's pretty optimistic. So they don't just defeat the virus, they actually use it as an opportunity to, like, create a better world.
Yeah, exactly. The story jumps ahead 6 months, and we see that Megacorp's headquarters has been transformed into this Center for Productive Joy. They're dedicated to studying the science of humor and figuring out how to integrate it into everyday life.
So they're taking what they learned from this whole crazy experience and using it to make the world a better, more laughter-filled place.
And there's this great little detail at the end. Remember Charles O'Connor, Jimmy's dad, the efficiency fanatic? Well, he ends up becoming, like, the star student of Dr. Chen's program. He learns to embrace humor and even starts ending board meetings with a joke.
That's awesome. So even the most serious, buttoned-up people can learn to lighten up a little.
And that's a good lesson for all of us, right? In a world that's so focused on, like, getting things done and optimizing everything, it's important to remember the value of laughter, of connection, of those little moments of joy that make life worth living.
We don't have to choose between being productive and having fun. We can find ways to, like, blend the two, to create a world that's both efficient and joyful. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. What do you say?
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for having me on this deep dive. It's been a wild ride.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And remember, a well-lived life is a symphony, not a spreadsheet. Make sure you're composing a melody that includes plenty of laughter.